All right, we are live. Hey, how's it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. I do apologize for those of you who are tuned in right now because we had a technical difficulty and I had to restart the video chat. So I don't know what happened. The computer just locked up on me. So I know that if you were tuned in just a moment ago, I had to restart with a brand new live video chat. So this was a screw up on my end. I do apologize for that, but nonetheless, I'm going to continue on with the video chat, and hopefully we'll have a good one nonetheless. So if you're tuned in right now, you can hear me, you can see me. This is coming through loud and clear. Please let me know in the chat window, and we'll get into answering your questions very shortly. So I just got a couple things organized on my end here. All right, there we go. Okay, so again, I do apologize for the screw up there. I don't know, my computer just locked up on me, so then I went to restart, and of course, when you're doing a live video like this, it screws up the whole system. But nonetheless, we are here. We're going to give it a go. Even if we have a screw up, it's not going to stop the show. The show must go on. So here we are. All right, we've got Kamara joining us. We have Dan's joining us. Jesse's joining us. All right, thanks, guys. Everyone's saying it's coming through loud and clear. We have Daniel's joining us. Good stuff. All right. So the way these chats work, I just want to kind of do like an introduction in case you're brand new, is every Friday, I like to just have a little Q&A session with my followers. So I just come on here, flick on the camera, and have an off-the-cuff Q&A. So whatever you want to discuss with regards to training, nutrition, building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges that you're dealing with, feel free to post those into our chat window there. Any topics of discussion that are fitness and bodybuilding related, and I'll do my best to help you out over the course of this next hour. So basically just going to hang out here, and we're going to have a conversation and chew the fat and have some fun in the process. So again, happy Easter, happy Good Friday. I know we probably have some people tuning in now who normally probably can't tune in because obviously they're probably working on Fridays or whatever. But if you're off today and you're tuning in for the first time, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining us. All right, so let's see what we got here. Daniel's got a question. He says, Lee, I'm looking for a 6 to 8 week muscle building workout. In your opinion, which one of your workouts should I follow? Well, that really depends on your experience level. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on your goals. I mean, there's really no one-size-fits-all answer here. But what I generally like to do, especially if I have somebody coming to me who's either brand new to working out or who probably hasn't been working out for a while. So you're coming back after a layoff, which in the situation of that, that's the same as someone starting off brand new. Because if you haven't been consistent, you need to start off with the basics. And ironically, I actually just put together recently a year-long training template. I'm going to share it with you here now. This is for my coaching students. I put together a year-long training template. And this is a new program that I'm going to be following, where we start off with the basics to build your foundation, and then we progress as you become more experienced and as you become more developed. So phase one, build your base. It's the primer phase. We're going to focus on building your base, and we usually just start with total body workouts every other day. And the idea here is just to build your overall fitness and increase your work capacity. Phase one. After that, we're going to get into strengthening some of the weak links. So I call it the month 2 of the primer phase is strengthening your foundation. And that is improving weak links, improving mobility. And for this, we're going to split up the workouts into an upper-lower body split. Month 3, I got it, the pumped and jacked phase. And this one, we're going to really get into diving into more of a muscle building and fat burning training session. So that's what we focus on. And for the training modality, it's a push-pull legs. So the way I design programs usually for a beginner is start off with a basic total body workout where you're only doing one major exercise per muscle group. As you outgrow that program, then we're going to move into upper lower body split where you're going to incorporate more exercises per muscle groups. Then get even more advanced, move into push-pull legs, where you now can split up the workouts more and incorporate even more exercises for each muscle group. And then we can get into some of the more advanced training phases. So we have metabolic conditioning, where we focus on time under tension. Another phase there, anabolic activation, where we focus on volume ramping, strength and power using 5x5. And basically, this is a whole year-long training template that I'm going to be incorporating now with my one-on-one coaching students. And it's a good structured program to follow. Now, obviously, we can customize this based on the individual that I'm working with, but it's a good general template for most people to go by. And that's what I usually recommend. So again, you mentioned that you're looking for just a basic muscle building program. Well, depending on where you are right now, I would probably focus on total body workouts to get started with. I mean, that's a good place to start. And then as you progress from there, then you can gradually work into more advanced split routines. So if you would like some more help with this, I mean, you know, planning it out, because that's a loaded question, right? I mean, like planning out a complete training program. If you'd like some more help with that, then send me an email, leeh@leehayward.com. And like I said, we can discuss a plan, and you can share some more details about your own situation, and we can really nail down a specific guideline that's suitable for you, your training situation, and of course your available exercise equipment. Because I mean, it's going to vary if you're just training at home with minimal equipment versus if you have access to a complete public gym with, you know, all the latest and greatest equipment. I mean, obviously you have to adjust your workouts accordingly. Who else we got here? JKS has a question. He says, I'm 48, 125 pounds, dumbbell presses on chest day, fighting the aging process. Can you explain landmine presses? Do they work shoulders? Both. Or do they work chest and shoulders? Both. I work out at home looking for new options. The landmine press, it's basically a single arm shoulder press variation. And it's a unique one because you're pressing on an angle. You know, it's not a direct overhead press. It's a unique angle press. And when you lean into a landmine press, it involves a lot of core activation and different from a regular standing overhead press because, again, the weight is more in front of you. So it just changes the mechanics of the exercise. It's primarily a shoulder move, but you are going to get a bit of upper chest in there as well. And of course, triceps. Anytime you do a pressing exercise, your triceps are coming in there as secondary muscles. But it's a nice variation. I like it. I actually have a couple workout videos where I go into showing the landmine press. And if you go to my playlists, in there, there's a single limb training workouts, and it's a full playlist covering body part workouts using all single limb exercises. So all the major muscle groups. And if you want, you can go in there, and I believe in the shoulder one is single limb landmine presses. So you can see a demo of that exercise. Plus, you can go on YouTube and just search for it. You can see a lot of, you know, there's bound to be a lot of people having videos about the landmine press. But it's a nice alternative. I got to say, it's a nice alternative, especially if you have access to a landmine and you're kind of limited on equipment. Then, hey, by all means, utilize that. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with a landmine. I have a video there showing how to do landmine hip belt squats, which is a nice leg exercise variation. Of course, you can do all kinds of different rowing variations with the landmine. A lot of people use it for rotational exercises as well. But the press is definitely another one that you can incorporate. So, I mean, it's all good, right? It's all good stuff. And the way I like it to do things is stick to a certain exercise variation for about 6 to 8 weeks, or until you feel that you're hitting a plateau. So if you're normally doing, let's just say, dumbbell presses, and you feel like, okay, that they're going a bit stale, I'm hitting a plateau, or even starting to lose strength, meaning you can't even duplicate the weights that you were lifting previously, that's a sign that you need to change things up. So I mean, maybe doing something like the landmine press could be a nice variation in this case, and help spur on some new unique muscle stimulation and help further your progress along. And the way it usually works is, let's just say you have a selection of, you know, maybe 4 or 5 key exercises for each muscle group, you know, big compound lifts. And you can rotate through them in, say, like 6-week phases. So maybe do 6 weeks of landmine presses. And then when you feel that's kind of starting to plateau, and then you can switch it up, maybe do like a regular standing overhead barbell press. And then when that plateaus, maybe you can go to a dumbbell press and, you know, play around with different variations, maybe even like handstand push-ups for that matter. That's another great shoulder press variation. But you can go through a bunch of different exercises, and then when you come back to, let's just say you had 4 exercises, you go through all 4, and then you come back to the first one again, chances are you'll be able to hit a new personal record on that exercise the second time around, because you went through all the other ones. And each exercise is going to help to strengthen certain aspects of your muscles, work on the stabilizer muscles, and it just helps to make you a stronger individual all around. And I first heard about this idea of cycling exercises like this back when I was training for powerlifting, and I was really following the West Side barbell style of training. And they go through this type of rotation where they alternate their max effort exercises. So they'll probably stick to one particular max effort exercise for, you know, several weeks until it plateaus, and then swap that out for another max effort exercise, you know, work that one until it plateaus and swap that one out. And then when they come back to the original exercise, you know, several weeks or several months later, they can usually work up and hit a new personal record. So you're constantly cycling through exercises, but building yourself up stronger each time through. So it's a nice way to go about your workouts, and that's something that I try to incorporate myself. All right, let's move on. We have Jesse's joining us. See what he's saying. He says he's doing a push-pull legs routine for 6 weeks, mixing strength and hypertrophy, focusing more on strength, but it seems to be running its course. What do you recommend doing next? You could do a push-pull legs, but change exercises, like I just mentioned. For most guys who are intermediate to advanced, you'll probably find 6 weeks tends to be a sweet spot for most people in terms of how long you can stick to a program and make really good gains with it. Now, this isn't a hard, like, set in stone rule. It's going to vary from person to person. So, I mean, if you've been following a program for longer than 6 weeks and it's still working for you, keep doing it. Like, don't stop because, you know, I said that most people can get 6 weeks out of a program. I mean, some people can get 12 weeks. Some people can get more. But on average, you'll usually start to find you hit a plateau around that 6 week mark, right? And if you continue trying to do the same thing, you know, you're beating your head against the wall and you're just keep trying to do the same thing over and over again, what's actually going to happen is you'll start to backtrack. You'll actually start to lose strength. And this is very common. This actually happens. And, you know, when that happens and people start, you know, freaking out and saying, well, what am I doing wrong? And then they'll start, you know, thinking, okay, maybe it's my nutrition, or maybe it's this, or maybe I need a new supplement, or whatever. But a lot of times it's just your training programming. When you hit a plateau in a particular exercise with a particular program, that's usually a sign that you need to change it up and provide some unique muscle stimulation. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. I mean, you can change up the exercises you're doing. You can change up the set and rep patterns. You can even change up the way that you organize your training. You like changing up the order of body parts. For example, I mean, if you're doing push-pull legs, I mean, if you went and did some total body training for a while, that would provide unique muscle stimulation, change up the frequency of the workouts, and all kinds of stuff. But it provides that different stimulation that your body has to adapt and grow, and then eventually it'll plateau again. So we always go through that phase, you know, regardless of what program it is. You start a new one, your body has to adapt to that program. In that process of adapting, you're going to grow from that program. And then after you grow, you max it out, you're eventually going to hit a plateau. And every program, I don't care who designed it or where it comes from, you're going to go through that adapt, grow, plateau. And once you're in that plateau phase and you realize, okay, we've ran our course, then you need to change it up. And a nice strategy that you can use if you really want to maximize your gains is to do something that is like a full 180 turn of change from what you've been previously doing. So let's just say you're really focusing on heavy, low rep training. If you want to like turn it upside down and stimulate some new growth, focus your next phase on maybe higher repetition, higher volume training. And just that change from going from the heavy low reps to the higher reps works different muscle fibers, different time under tension, totally unique muscle stimulation, and you'll usually respond better. And this is how I actually designed the workout of the month program over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding member site. Is each month I try and pair it up with a complementary program. And we have several in our database. I mean, we've got dozens of different workout programs there, but I structure them up in such a way that, so if one month we're doing a heavy power training program, the next month we're probably going to do more of a bodybuilding style program. And then the month after that, we may do a conditioning style program. And then we can maybe go back to the power training. And you alternate through these different training modalities. And not only does it keep the workouts fun and enjoyable, but it also helps to provide that unique muscle stimulation, which will keep your training fresh and help you to make the better gains in the long run. So as far as what I would suggest you do differently, the two big ones, the reps and the exercises. So again, that's what I would change if you're looking for some suggestions there, Jesse. And as always, with all these things, I know sometimes when I answer a question, it's probably going to actually cause even more questions to come about. So if you would like some more help with this, I do offer one-on-one coaching. And if you want some help, just send me an email, leeh@leehayward.com. And I'll be happy to discuss this stuff in more detail and kind of customize it to your individual situation. All right, Michael is joining us. Let's see. He says he just finished week 2 of the Blast Your Bench program, and I'm only working out 3 days a week to prevent injuries. On the final week, instead of going up 5, should I go up 10 instead after each lift? No. Keep with the progression as outlined in the program. I would still recommend focusing on small jumps in weight. So I usually recommend 5-pound increments. That's set there for a reason. And I find that it's so much easier to make more frequent 5-pound jumps in weight, 2.5 pound on each side of the barbell. If you're training in kilos, obviously your weights will be different, but I'm using pounds as an example here. But making those 5-pound jumps is the safest and most efficient way to get stronger, because it's not that big of a jump to increase the weight by 5 pounds. It's not going to overwhelm you. It's not going to cause you to get injured or anything like that. It's a very safe and effective way of progressive overload. And those frequent jumps in weight, your body can adapt and respond and handle that quite well. If you try and go up by 10 or more pounds in a single jump, it's a bit much, right? I'm not saying you can't make progress that way. I mean, you probably still can make good progress, but I think you'd be better off making the smaller increments and do that more frequently. So even within the final week of the program, still stick to those 5-pound increments. Again, these are your training weights. This isn't your max out. This is building your strength in training. Once the program's over, then you can retest your 1 rep max and go through the process there. But for your training weights, keep focusing on those small increments in weight. And if you would like to get a copy of the Blast Your Bench program, it's actually available on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding members website, or you can just head on over to leehayward.com, and there's a link there in the side menu bar where you can download a copy of the PDF program, the Blast Your Bench. And that's my original program. That's what I started back online with back in 1997. And back then, it was a very crude version of Blast Your Bench. It's since then been expanded greatly. But that's what I started with back over 20 years ago. So it's an oldie, but it still works just as well today as it did back then. Okay, let's see what else we got. KM is joining us. What best helps with middle and lower back pain? I'm getting pain when sitting and walking on the treadmill. All right, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that could be going on there. If you're overweight, that is a huge one. That could cause a lot of back pain. I mean, if you lose weight, very often that helps to alleviate back pain. So this applies to anybody. That's kind of like a universal thing. If you got excess weight, drop the weight. That usually helps. Another thing is the seat you're in. If you have a good lumbar support, that can make a big difference. Another one that I would recommend is try not to sit for too long in any one period of time. Like sometimes we get caught up in our work and we're sitting at the desk and we can be there for hours on end. Try and purposely get up and move around at least once an hour. That's minimum. I mean, ideally more than that, Another option that I recommend, and this is something that I'm eventually going to get myself. I don't have one, but I want to get one, is these standing desks where you can set up your computer on this platform so you can work while you're sitting down, or you can elevate it and do your work on the computer standing up. I personally don't have one, but a friend of mine, Chris, he has one in his office, and he showed me. Chris from Critical Bench. I've done some collaboration videos with Critical Bench. I'm sure you've seen the YouTube videos on my channel. But he has one in his office, and it's awesome. These standing desks. So I want to be able to get that, and that'll help a lot. I mean, if you can do, you can alternate from sitting for a little while working, stand up for a little while and work, just move around, and even just do some easy stretches. There's a lot of stretches. It doesn't have to be complicated, but little things like bending over to touch your toes, great lower back stretch. Another one is the complete opposite, where you put your hands on your lower back and you arch yourself back and look up at the ceiling. And that's a really good one. Now, you should do it standing. I'm doing it seated because I want to be in line with the camera. But stand up, put your hands in your lower back, and just arch back. And it's a really good lower back stretch. So little things like that throughout the day can help to alleviate some of that lower back pain. A lot of it, the root cause of it is just you're not getting enough mobility and circulation there because you're sitting still too much, especially if you spend a lot of days sitting down. And, of course, stretching. So another strategy that I like to recommend is after each workout, take a few minutes and stretch out the body parts you trained. And that can include some stretching for your lower back pretty much every day, because technically your lower back comes into play regardless of what body part you're training. I mean, it's there as, you know, your core is the stabilizing for all exercises, all body part movements. So when I'm doing those stretches at the end of my workouts, more often than not, I will do, you know, at least 1 or 2 stretches for the back and the core as well. So that stuff can really help, you know. And if you want some more like the actual see the stretches, head on over to the main channel page and open up the playlists, and I have a full playlist covering stretches, and in there's actually a back stretching video, but you can go through it and watch all the different stretching videos, each body part. So there's back stretches, leg stretches, arm stretches, shoulder stretches, chest stretches, all outlined there, and good guidelines to follow, so you could actually pick the stretching routine and pair it up with the body parts that you're going to be training that day in the gym. All right, we have Woodulos joining us. He says, for God's sakes, I was waiting on the other stream. I do apologize, guys. Again, I addressed this at the beginning of the chat. For whatever reason, my computer was giving me some issues here, and I tried to see if I could just restart the stream. But the way it is with YouTube is once you start a stream, you can't re-enter the stream, right? It's weird. So I had to create a whole new video stream. So there's probably people over on that other video stream cursing and swearing on me right now, but you know, so be it. I'm here. I had to start a brand new one, and the show must go on one way or the other. All right, I have no control over technology. This is all done in real time. It's not like it was pre-recorded and planned in advance. It's just if shit goes wrong, it goes wrong in real time, and we just got to deal with it. All right. Ben is joining us. He says he's 36. Had big leg, never had big legs, sorry. He says, kind of like a twig, but arms are good. How can I get bigger legs? Do I train more frequently or heavier? Focus on the frequency. This is kind of applies to anytime you have a stubborn body part. I would recommend more frequency versus simply trying to train them heavier. Now, with that being said, you should still be trying to train with progressive overload and build up your strength over time, but don't go overboard with it. If you get to the point where you're training too heavy, sometimes you can't train with enough quality, because simply trying to move heavy weight is not the best way to stimulate growth. You need to be able to have enough time under tension. You need to be able to get enough volume in there in order to stimulate hypertrophy. So I recommend focusing on the quality versus just sheer heavy weight. But increasing the frequency is critical. That's a big one. You can make really good progress with more frequency. Now, how you're going to have to do this is you have to rearrange your workout program, because we only have so much recovery ability, right? Let's just, for an example's sake, let's say we have 100 units of recovery. It doesn't mean you have 100 units of recovery for all your major muscle groups. It means you have 100 units of recovery for everything. So if you're dedicating, just say right now, 50-50, so 50% is for your upper body, 50% is for your lower body, and your lower body's the stubborn, well, we want to prioritize the lower body. So that means we have to scale back on the training for our upper body in order to allow more recovery, i.e. more growth for the lower body. So we have to scale back on the frequency of your stronger body parts. So in your case, if your arms are good, your upper body isn't good, put those on a maintenance program. You know, maybe just do one exercise for each upper body muscle group. You know, for your chest, just do one pressing exercise. For your back, just do one rowing exercise. For your arms, you know, one curl exercise, one tricep extension, one shoulder press. Just keep it simple. You're just going to focus on maintenance. And you could probably even just do that once a week, right? Because I mean, those body parts are already strong. So we just want to put them on a maintenance program so we don't lose the gains you got there. But now with your legs, this is where you can bump up the frequency and bump up the volume over the course of the week. And there's different ways of going about it. One that I think would be a good one, especially for the legs, because the legs are a hard body part to build because they're so demanding. But what I would recommend is that you do some heavy leg training, maybe like squats on one day. And then, of course, you can do some isolation exercises afterwards. But one day you prioritize big moves like squats and stiff leg deadlifts and things like that. And then the other one, you prioritize machines. So leg extensions and leg curls and inner and outer thigh and leg presses and hack squats and stuff like that. So alternate those two workouts. One heavy, hard squat, lunges, deadlifts, that kind of leg workout. The other one, still going to be a hard leg workout, but it's not as physically demanding because we're utilizing machines where you're focusing primarily on, again, the leg press, leg extension, leg curl, inner and outer thigh. And you can alternate those two workouts. Probably take a day or two of rest in between each one to allow for adequate recovery, but try and keep the focus of your training around your leg workouts and just put the upper body on a maintenance back burner program, if you will. And that will allow most of your body's recovery energy to go towards your leg training and prioritize it. Another thing that you can do as well is you can do extra leg exercises at home in your spare time. Like it doesn't always have to be an official go to the gym workout. Like body weight squats or lunges. I mean, this is stuff you can do. You don't need any equipment to do this. I mean, you can throughout the day just bang out a set of body weight squats. You know, like do 25 reps in the morning, 25 reps midday, 25 reps after work, 25 reps before you go to bed. So, I mean, over the course of the day, you got like 100 total body weight squats. I mean, if you did that 7 days a week, that's 700 squats that you're getting that you normally would not get. And the way it is with these little mini body weight workouts is they're so short and they're so quick that you can actually recover and adapt to that. Now, I mean, it's still over time, it adds up to a lot of volume, but it's done so where it's spaced out so gradually over the course of the week and over the course of the day that your body can actually accommodate and recover from it quite nicely. And this is something I've recommended for other body parts, like guys who have stubborn pecs, the chest just wouldn't grow. Hey, do push-ups throughout the day, right? It doesn't always have to be a proper go to the gym 2-hour-long chest workout or proper training program. I mean, you can do exercises at home in your spare time with just your body weight. And this is something that I do myself on time. I mean, it's a great way to bring up stubborn body parts. All right, let's move on. Kamar, I believe, is asking, Lee, my abs seem to be my weakest muscle. I train them often, but they won't grow. Someone told me that my abs are not activated. I don't know what to do. Also, do I need supplements? I've stopped using them. All right, I'd like to know exactly what you mean by that, because the abs are not a muscle group where you're going to get a lot of growth. I mean, it's not like your chest or your arms or your legs or your back, for that matter. I mean, like, nobody wants to add inches to their abs, right? You want to add inches to your chest and your legs and your back and stuff. But the abs are stabilizer muscles for your core. So there's not a lot of growth potential there. I mean, if somebody has a lot of size around their midsection, it's usually not just due to pure thick abdominal muscle. I mean, it's usually due to a lot of excess body fat if someone has a really big midsection. But with that being said, I mean, you can still train the abs and build up strength throughout your core. I'd like to know, I mean, you didn't mention like what it is that you're actually doing for your abs, but you can change up the exercises. Like, I mean, simple things like crunches and leg raises and things like that. I mean, those are okay for beginners, or they're okay for like isolation. But if you really want to build strength throughout your core, there's a lot more advanced exercises that you can do. And I'm a big fan of planks. I like different plank variations because it works the abs in that stabilizing position. So, I mean, you can do all kinds of different plank variations. What are some other ones? I mean, just trying to think. Some weighted abdominal exercises as well. Like you can do like with the hyperextension bench. I mean, obviously you can do work for your lower back, but you can also reverse it and do, you know, resistant sit-ups. Decline bench sit-ups is another great one that I really like. Hanging leg raises from a pull-up bar, where you literally start and you lift your feet all the way up until it touches the pull-up bar that you're hanging from. That's a really good abdominal exercise as well. I mean, there's a lot of abdominal exercises that you can do, but try and focus on moves that are more challenging and more functional rather than just like crunches. I mean, crunches are okay as like either for beginners or kind of like as a finishing exercise if you're just trying to squeeze out your abs at the end of a workout. But it's not really a productive strength building exercise, right? So I'd rather focus on some more practical moves for building up good functional strength throughout your entire core. Other things that you can do as well, even like farmer's walk, but just use one dumbbell at a time. So some people refer to this one as the suitcase walk. And by doing that, when you're doing like a farmer's walk with one arm at a time, that really focuses on the other side having to stabilize and counterbalance your body. So, I mean, that's a really good one for the core as well. It heavily works the obliques, but it also works the lower back and the abdominals in there as well. So there's a lot of different exercises that you can do to strengthen your core. And if you want some more help with this, because again, I know I'm kind of throwing out a lot of suggestions here, but I don't even know exactly what you're doing other than the fact that you say your abs are weak. All right. So if you want some more help with this, shoot me an email and, you know, we can discuss this in more detail. But the issue that you're having here is probably due to training programming. It's not due to supplements. I can tell you that right now. Taking a supplement is not going to strengthen your abs or build more muscle in your abs or anything like that, right? I mean, I'm not saying that supplements are bad or anything, but from the sounds of it, this is a training programming issue and not a lack of a supplement type of issue. All right, let's move on. We have a second now. Where was I? I just lost my spot. Carnage Maximum. Lee, I'm getting a slight pain on my hips during squats. What's a good way to warm up legs without hindering the actual squat session? Hip pain during squats. Okay. First of all, you probably have weak hips and you just simply need to strengthen them. So inner and outer thigh machines are a great way to strengthen the hips. So you can do that. There's also different squat variations that you can implement, like box squats are a great one that really focuses on the hips, especially if you use a wider stance. But what I would recommend in the short term is lighten up the weight and focus on increasing your volume and really focusing on your form, because it depends on why you're getting that pain to begin with. Right? I mean, there could be multiple reasons for this. It could be due to mobility issues. It could be due to a nerve impingement. It could be just due to weak hips. I really need to know more about it in order to properly diagnose it. But I'll give you an example from my own training. I remember a few years back, I was mountain biking, and I wiped out on my mountain bike, and I really messed up my right hip. Like, I didn't tear it or anything like that, but it was painful. And I went for the better part of a year not being able to squat without pain in that hip. So I could do my warm-up weights, no problem, like, just empty barbell or body weight squats. Go 135, no problem. 185, oh, started to feel a little bit of pain. 225 was my max. I couldn't go any heavier than 225 for over a year due to hip pain. And it was just, once I got to that weight, just a shooting pain in my hip. And over time, I mean, I just kept working, stretching and working the exercise within my pain threshold. And of course, it healed up on its own. But I knew that was the cause because of the mountain bike accident where I wiped out and I just kind of twisted my hip in a weird sort of way and kind of messed it up that way. But in your situation, I'd really like to know what is the root cause of that hip pain? I mean, like, is this something new that you're experiencing, or is this just, something that's always been there? Because that can really tell a lot about how we go about diagnosing the issue, if you will. But some things that I would recommend, it's usually a sign of weak hips. If you're getting pain, that's the root cause. So you want to focus on building up the hips, and some exercises that can definitely help. Box squats are one. I have a video up on box squats. I have a couple of older ones, but I'm going to do a new one because I'm actually incorporating this into my own training now. So I want to incorporate a new video demonstrating this. But as far as some warm-up exercises, inner and outer thigh, I would recommend that. That's one that it's kind of an underrated exercise, especially the outer thigh one, because that's directly working the hips. But that's a really good one. And if you do a search on YouTube for Lee Hayward hip mobility, I have a video there showing some body weight hip exercises that you can do at home. And this is something that you can do throughout the week. So, I mean, it could be a warm-up prior to your actual leg workout, but it could be done frequently throughout the week to just get more mobility, blood flow and circulation throughout your hips. So something like this, I would recommend even doing that hip mobility video that I have. Do that maybe 3 times a week. And again, if you want to check it out, just do a search on YouTube, Lee Hayward hip mobility, and you'll find that video. And again, it's all body weight exercises that can be done at home. Tips for reducing butt wink in a squat. This one's from Oysen. Butt wink is usually, if you're doing a full squat going, ass to the grass, there's probably going to be a little bit of butt wink. If you're not going super deep, you're only going to parallel, you're probably not going to have as much butt wink. So it's usually only people who go super deep get butt wink, because that's just the way the body is when you go through that full range of motion. Now, there are some things that you can do, like if you stretch out your hamstrings, stretch out your glutes, I mean, that can help to reduce it a bit. If you elevate your heels when you're squatting, sometimes that can help a little bit. Those hip mobility exercises that I mentioned in the previous question, that could help a bit as well. But you have to also realize that a little bit of butt wink is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, for those of you who are watching, like, what the heck's a butt wink? It's, if somebody does a full squat, sometimes the hips dip down a little bit. It's kind of hard for me to explain it here, but if you just like do a Google image search or even a Google or YouTube search, you'll see people explain butt wink. But the reality is, it's not always a bad thing. Like, I have some butt wink when I do full squats, and it's been like that for years. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, some people look at it as terrible, but even some world-class Olympic lifters, people who are known for doing those full squats, have some butt wink, and it's not always a bad thing. If it causes pain and discomfort, well, okay, then that's something that you want to work around. That's your body giving you a warning sign that it's not right. But it's not always a bad thing. I mean, as long as you can do it comfortably and it doesn't cause any pain or discomfort, then a little bit of butt wink is not going to hurt, right? I mean, I have it myself, and again, I haven't had any lower back issues or anything as a result of that, and I've been doing full squats for 20 years now, so it's not an issue like that. But if you do want to try and minimize it, those are some things that you can focus on. Of course, flexibility, building up the hips, squatting with elevated shoes, that can definitely help. And that hip mobility video that I mentioned before, that would definitely be a good one to use as well. All right, Sean is joining us. He says, Lee, since Tomorrow is 420. I want to celebrate, but instead of smoking pot like some mediocre, 420 deadlift. 405 is my best. Any tips to pull more? All right, just throwing this out there. You say 405 is your personal best deadlift, and you want to pull 420 pounds. That's something you have to work up to. I wouldn't make that jump from 405 to 420 in one go. I would work it up to 410. If that goes well, then the next workout do 415. If that goes well, next workout try the 420. And I know that seems like a slow and painful way to go about it, but it's a very predictable and a very safe way to progress. I mean, back when I was doing all my heavy lifting back in the day, like even when I was training for powerlifting, I built myself up to 500 plus squats, 500 plus deadlifts, and a 400 plus pound bench, and I built it up by going up 5 pounds at a time, right? 5 pound increments, and that's the safest way to go about it. People who try and make these big infrequent jumps, like it's stupid. Like sometimes you'll see guys, I don't know, like bench pressing, and they might get 275, and then they say, oh, let's throw on 315 and give it a go. Like, that's too big of a jump. If you've never done it before, I'm not talking about warm-up weights. I'm talking about like max effort working weights, right? That's different. But like people try to make these big, crazy jumps in weight. Now, again, 15 pounds is not crazy, but from a practical point of view, I would not do it. I'd recommend sticking to those 5 pound increments because they're safe. You're more likely to actually achieve it and have a successful lift. Because look at it this way: if you hit, okay, you did 405. If you go 410 and you have a successful lift, well, that's building yourself up. It's building up your confidence. It's building up that momentum, and it's actually, allowing you to progress better. If you try 420 and you fail, or worse, you try 420 and you pull something, you strain your back or whatever because it's just beyond your reach at this moment, then that could potentially set you back. So I'm always like, yes, you want to push yourself. Yes, you want to train with progressive overload, all that kind of stuff. But you have to do so in a safe and conservative fashion because there's nothing that's going to slow your progress down more than if you overreach, try to do too much too soon and get injured. And I mean, how shitty would it be if you tried to go for a 420 pound deadlift and threw your back out? I mean, just look at it from that point of view. And then you're laid up. You can't deadlift, or you can't even do any back training for the next 6 weeks because you threw your freaking back out, right? You'd feel like an idiot for trying it. Whereas if you try in these slow, manageable 5 pound increments, the risk of injury is much lower, and the chances of you actually successfully getting that lift is much higher. So that's the way I look at it. Look at the risk to reward ratio here. Don't just try and lift a weight because of a date on the calendar. All right, next question. Please tell me how to gain muscles. Oh, that's a loaded question, but I tell you where you can get the fundamentals. Head on over to my website, leehayward.com, and there's a book there called The 3 Keys to Building Muscle, and it covers 3 sections, 3 keys: training, nutrition, and mindset. And each section will go into how you structure a training program, how you structure your nutrition, and of course the mindset component that's going to be the glue that holds all that together. Read that book. It's a 50-page PDF report that's going to basically outline like building muscle 101, right? The basics. And after that, if you have any more specific questions, come on back and we can answer those. But I mean, to try and cover everything with regards to how to build muscles, that's that's beyond the scope of this video chat right now. We're going to answer specific questions, not just laying out a complete program. Kamara's joining us. Would you be a trainer that could help me become more aesthetic? I'm working in the fashion industry and I need to be in top shape. Let me know and I'll email you. Well, email me and we can discuss your situation. As far as aesthetics is concerned, like you hear this a lot. Like some people say, I'm training for mass, or I'm training for aesthetics, or I'm training for whatever. A lot of it has to do with your own God-given genetics. I mean, some people are more aesthetically pleasing than others. And while we can do the best we can with training, you can't change your genetic structure, right? So some people have like the the long, lean physique. Others have the short, stocky physique. Some people are somewhere in the middle. You know, you really can't change that, right? But you can make the best of your situation. And quite honestly, all you can do to make the best of your situation, build muscle, burn body fat, right? That's it. I mean, we can't really change our genetic structure or how we look. I mean, obviously we can work on building up our weak areas and placing less emphasis on our strong areas and to kind of give the illusion of a better, well-balanced physique. But ultimately, I mean, it comes down to your genetics. And you'll see this, like you look at the top bodybuilders in the world, like they all have different looks, right? And it's not always because of the particular workout or the particular diet they're training. I mean, everybody's doing the same exercises to a certain degree. Everybody's training hard. Everybody's eating right to a certain degree, especially at the top level of the sport. What's really separating people is their genetics, right? That's why you have some people that look a certain way and others look a totally different way. Why some guys are better suited for like men's physique, whereas others are better suited for classic physique, and others are suited for bodybuilding. It's not so much the training, it's your genetics, because the diet and the training is very similar for a bodybuilder, for a classic physique, or a physique competitor. It's just what's your genetic structure more suited to. You know, if you have those ectomorphic tendencies, the longer, leaner physique, you're going to be better suited for like a physique category. You'll probably be more classified more as an aesthetic build because you have that longer, leaner look. Whereas someone who has more of a endomorphic characteristics, you know, the shorter, stockier build, you know, they're probably going to be better suited for bodybuilding or for power sports. And they're probably not going to be as aesthetically pleasing just because they're shorter and more stocky. It's not necessarily due to the training or the diet. It's just that's their genetics. So with that being said, if you still want to shoot me an email, go right ahead and we can elaborate about training. And hey, if you want, we can even jump on a chat like Skype or something like that and have a conversation about it. But when it comes to aesthetics, I'm just being totally honest. Most of it is genetics. All right, Sean saying, Lee, I hear that a shot of whiskey before a max helps. Supposedly it has the same effect as sniffing ammonia like strongmen do. Do you think whiskey is worth it? No pun intended. No. No. Simple. I would not recommend drinking whiskey before a max lift. Ammonia, I've tried it before, but like the only time I would recommend anything like that is in a powerlifting, strongman, Olympic lifting type of situation. Like for guys who are just in the gym training, you don't need any of that. I mean, like you don't need that 110%. You know, going 100% is fine. The whole idea of this pushing yourself to the limit. I mean, when I was younger, I used to do crazy stuff, like try to get myself psyched up for lifts and try to get that adrenaline rush to help, you know, squeeze out an extra, you know, few pounds on a max effort lift. But, you know, it's, if you are going to use any of that kind of stuff, I mean, keep it very sparingly. Like I can understand like someone in a competition who's trying to set a new personal record or you know, win the competition, or I mean, if you want to like pull out all the stops for that short duration, but for someone who's in the gym training, man, you definitely don't want to be pushing yourself repeatedly at high levels like that, because it's just going to lead to burnout, injury, and overtraining. But as far as whiskey in the gym, no, I'm going to have to turn that one down. I'm not going to approve that one. All right, we have NTN Vlogs. Lee, is it possible to get abs without hunger by sticking to solid nutrition, cardio, and ab work? Would you say that at some point you have to endure some hunger to get them? Again, this is going to relate a lot back to genetics. Some people are just genetically leaner than others. Some people have to really suffer it out. But what I would suggest, it's probably going to require a bit of hunger, you know, if you're in a calorie deficit and everything else, but there are ways to minimize it. And the thing you need to look at is you don't have to diet harder, you have to diet longer. Now, With that being said, you still have to structure your diet in a way that's going to facilitate fat loss, meaning you have to be in a calorie deficit. You still have to be, training consistently, doing your cardio, working your abdominals, like doing everything that you're supposed to do, following a sound nutrition program. But it doesn't have to be extreme. Like a slight calorie deficit, for example, like if you're going like a 500 calorie deficit, that's not extreme. Like, yes, okay, there might be a little bit of hunger, and it'd be to the point where sometimes you're like, yeah, I'd like to go back for second helpings, but I'm going to pass because I'm trying to lose a bit of fat. Or you might have that little sensation of peckiness, where especially in the nighttime, you're probably sitting around saying, man, I'd love to grab that bag of chips, or I'd love to have, some cookies, or order a pizza or something like that. You probably have those cravings from time to time, but you're like, you know what? I'm sticking to my plan, right? I'm sticking to my plan. I want to get lean. And so you will have those tendencies where you have to endure it, but it doesn't have to be extreme. Like, it doesn't have to be a starvation diet or anything like that. I mean, like a 500 calorie deficit done over a prolonged period of time, like over the course of several months, will get your body fat down low. And what I used to do back when I was competing in bodybuilding is, once I understood how my body responded, I didn't diet harder, I dieted longer. And that was my key to getting in shape. I mean, that's what I did, and to get my peak contest shape was simply diet longer. And another strategy, if you find that hunger is an issue, fill up on vegetables. This is what I used to do a lot of. When I have those I just wanted to eat, just because I wanted to satisfy my hunger, but actually, I just like to eat. So I would eat more vegetables. You can basically stuff yourself full of vegetables. Like, you're not going to get fat because you ate too many vegetables, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. You're going to get too fat because you're eating too many, cakes and cookies and pies and crap like that. But as far as like natural unprocessed vegetables, you're not going to get too fat because, he went for another salad, or he ate an extra cucumber. Oh my God, he's going to balloon up like a balloon, right? It's not going to happen like that. You're not going to get fat from eating vegetables. So use that as your filler food. That can give you the eating satisfaction and fill your belly with volume, right? So that's stuff that you can do. Another one that I used to do a lot of as well is blender smoothies. Like mixing up, you can really make these almost like a treat, like a dessert. This is something that I use a lot when I'm dieting. Mix up like a base of liquid egg whites, some protein powder, and then sometimes I'll throw in frozen berries. But if you want to actually make it even leaner and more optimal for fat loss, throw in frozen vegetables, like mixed frozen vegetables. And I know it kind of sounds gross if you've never tried it before, but the protein powder will actually mask the taste of it. So, like, for example, if you put in chocolate protein powder and you blend it up with frozen veggies, and it'll actually taste almost like a chocolate ice cream, because you'll get the frozen veggies will provide that ice and the consistency and the thickness, but the protein powder will give it the flavor. So it'll actually mask a lot of the flavors. And if you're following a cutting diet, the thought of eating vegetables should not be repulsive, because that's the kind of stuff you're going to need to be eating. But you get that volume of food in your system, and it actually is quite satisfying. So there are ways to minimize hunger. There's some nutrition strategies for sure, but you probably do have to endure a bit of it. It's going to take some willpower. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. All right, let's move on. Azim is joining us. He says, thanks for all your feedback and knowledge. You're more welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it. And Azim's a regular. He always tunes into every video chat. Has been for, I would say, years now. A long time. Yeah. So again, I appreciate the support. UDC, I can't pronounce it. UDUC full. Says, would not miss your live show. Thanks again for the support. Why do bodybuilders tan their bodies before competition? I actually answered this question a while back in one of our previous video chats, I believe. The reason why bodybuilders have to tan before competition is because if you don't, you're not going to look as muscular. The stage lights are so bright that if you go out there without a tan, you're just going to appear totally washed out, and you're not going to see any muscle detail or definition. You're just going to look totally white, just like a ghost on stage. You need to be extremely dark. And when I say extremely dark, I'm talking like even black people have to tan or they're going to look washed out on stage. So if you've never been around a competitive bodybuilder, like the day of a competition, you don't appreciate how dark they have to be. It is dark, 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 dark. That's all I can say. And the only way to achieve that is through paint on bodybuilding tans. Now, nowadays, a lot of competitions, they have spray tan booths where people actually go in there and they'll have professionals will literally spray them down and give them several coats of tan, however many they need for their skin tone and everything else in order to get their tan so they're dark enough. But back in the old days, what we used to do is we get the pro tan or these paint on tans, dream tan or whatever, and put it on ourselves. I'm sure some people still do that. But you need to be super dark, right? Super dark. And I actually, in my book, Your First Bodybuilding Competition, I have a whole chapter outlined to tanning and explaining how it's done. And I even recommend different tanning products and stuff like that. But man, you got to be super dark. And to kind of put it in perspective, I remember I was volunteering at a competition, one of our local competitions a few years back. And one of the competitors was in great shape. He was in the heavyweight division. And he was a black man. And he was going up against a bunch of white guys. Now, the white guys put on the tan, right? Because they knew that they had to be dark enough. So they put on the tan and everything else and got themselves properly prepped for backstage. The black guy, he didn't want to put on the tan. He said, no, I'm dark enough. I don't need to put on the tan. I said, are you sure? Like I said, you know, it'll make you look better. It'll really help. And I was volunteering just backstage helping the guys out. So I was kind of trying to encourage him. I said, look, it's going to make you look better. It's not going to take that long. We can put on a coat of tan. It'll make you look better. And he said, no, don't bother with it. He says, I'm dark enough. Sure enough, he gets up on stage without any tan. He was the whitest guy on stage. So I think there was 5 people in that category. It was 1 black guy and 4 white guys. And who was the whitest guy on stage under those bright lights? The black guy was the most lightest and washed out of all the competitors. So that just shows you how dark you have to be. You have to be super dark. And again, the only way to get that is through the artificial bodybuilding tan that you put on. Now, it's messy and everything else, but obviously it looks better from a muscularity point of view. All right, let's move on. Jesse's saying, thanks for the advice. You're welcome. Hayward Fridays. Yeah, there we go. Live video chat every Friday. You can refer to this as Hayward Fridays. Okay, Myro Sef says, would you recommend to do, if you haven't worked out in 1.5 years, what routine should I jump into? If you haven't worked out for 1.5 years, you need to start right back as a beginner. So a basic total body workout 3 days a week. Simple. Do that for at least 4 to 6 weeks or so until you start to build up your work capacity and your conditioning, and then you can progress onwards. It's like I mentioned earlier in the chat, I've got this 12-month blueprint, and this is a program that I've put together for my Muscle Over 40 blueprint coaching program. And this is a 12-month program. You can see, so that's probably going to look backwards on the camera. But basically, the first phase, like I mentioned, is total body workouts. You just want to build your base and improve your fitness and work capacity. From there, we'll get into more advanced training programs. But this applies to anybody. If you're coming back after a layoff, it doesn't matter if you've worked out for 20 years. It doesn't matter if you were a former athlete or bodybuilder or powerlifter or whatever. If you're coming back to the gym and you are currently deconditioned, you need to start back at bare bones basics and build up your conditioning. Now, the good news is, if you were in shape at one time before and now you are regaining lost muscle, you can regain it quicker the second time around than it took you to gain it the first time. So muscle memory is a real thing, and you can regain lost muscle a lot quicker than it took you to gain it initially. So, for example, when I went through my like if I go through a phase where I've taken some time off and then I'm coming back to the gym, I'll regain muscle faster the second time around, right? And this is sometimes why some of these before and after transformations can be deceiving. Like sometimes you see guys make these ridiculous like 12-week transformations, and you're like, whoa, and it kind of throws people off because sometimes beginners think that they can make that kind of transformation in 12 weeks. But what you're seeing is probably an experienced lifter who just took some time off, got a little bit out of shape, and then got back in training again and regained lost muscle. So they can regain it the second time around so much faster. And that's where you very often see some of these crazy 12-week transformation before and after pictures that you see, especially if it's a well-known like pro bodybuilder or someone like that doing the transformation. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's respectable and it's probably a real transformation, but it doesn't mean that that's applicable to a beginner, right? The gains that a beginner is going to make versus the gains that a seasoned person regaining lost muscle are going to make, two totally different things. All right, we have Amy joining us. Lee, is it good to train every day to get back in shape fast? Yes, you can train every day, but you have to do it in a certain way. And how I refer to this is yin and yang training. And I like to alternate weight training one day with cardio the next. And so if you're trying to maximize your progress, get back in shape, you could do a weight training workout followed by cardio. And I even like to split it up so that it's high intensity weight training and low intensity cardio. And by doing this, you can actually work out every single day, keep your body active, elevate your metabolism, get all the metabolic benefits of exercise on a regular basis, but you're doing so in a complementary fashion because you're not overtraining and breaking your body down. So during that high intensity weight training workout, you're breaking down your muscle tissue. The next day, when you do some low intensity cardio, that's active recovery and it's helping to aid with the recovery from the weight training. So complementing them, pairing them up is a very good way to stay active every day, burn calories every day, but allow your body to recover and grow at the same time. All right. Okay, I'll take another few questions here. We have Sid joining us. Says, I got a question. I'm an endomorph and shoulders are big and strong, so they tend to push forward. What stretch is good for shoulders? Also, what's good for duck neck posture? I've never heard that term before, duck neck posture. But shoulders, this is a common thing. Like very often the chest and front delts are overdeveloped in comparison to the rear delts and upper back. A lot of it has to do with just workout programming. A lot of it has to do with poor posture. And, you know, this is what a lot of it has to do with. How often do you see people like this, right? Little thumbs are going a mile a minute, and they're all slunched over, head down, back rounded, shoulders forward. That's terrible for your posture. Even working on the computer, right? Throughout the day, I always have to remind myself, you know, to stretch, you know, stretch my neck back and to keep my chest high and basically to stretch out the front of your shoulders and to contract the back. So some things that I would recommend, doing more rear delt work. You can do this as part of your training at the gym. You can even do it at home in your spare time, especially if you have like some rubber fitness tubing. Band pull aparts where you take the tubing, you do band pull aparts, you know, with overhand grip, with underhand grip, different rotator cuff rotations. There's a lot of things that you can do for this, but bottom line, you need to do a lot of frequent work for your rear delts and upper back, and you also need to be doing some neck exercises and stretches because to counteract that tendency we have for looking down and leaning forward. I mean, we all have it, especially if you're doing a lot of work at a desk or a computer or something like that. And sometimes even like other work, like if you're like a mechanic and you're leaning over a car engine all day, you know, we have that tendency, you know, to lean forward. Even if you're a cook in the kitchen, you know, have that tendency, you know, you're leaning over a stove, you're chopping up vegetables. I mean, we always have that tendency to lean forward, and you need to counteract it by improving your posture and doing work for your rear delts and upper back so we can balance it out. So I actually have, so if you just go do a search like Lee Hayward rear delts, there's some older videos up there now, but something that I could put out some new videos to cover some rear delt work, because this is something that's so important, and it's just going to continue to be an issue for people. Is you always need to remind yourself to do work for your rear delts, upper back, and to stretch, and again stretching your neck as well, because this is very neglected. So this is something you can do every single workout. Like I very often will throw in some rear delt work with every workout, regardless of what body part I'm training. Sometimes it's done as part of my warm-up routine, but other times it might be a finisher at the end of the training session as well. And it doesn't take much. I mean, a few sets, it's all it takes, but few sets every single workout can, over time, really help to balance things out, versus if you just neglect them altogether, which is unfortunately what most people do. All right, let's move on. We have Ben joining us. He says he's 36. He knows his testosterone is lower than it was. He's from the UK. Do you think I should monitor my testosterone more? Hey, absolutely. Go get a blood test and see what it is, right? You could probably just go to your doctor and request a blood test. And there's nothing wrong with doing this on a regular basis just to see where everything is. But if you are going to your doctor, specifically say that you want to get your hormone levels checked. So your testosterone, your growth hormone, your thyroid, get all that stuff checked. Because usually, like, the doctor's looking for the big major markers. Like, they'll look for your cholesterol, and they'll look for your blood sugar, or your iron levels, and certain things like this. But unless you ask them to test for testosterone, a lot of times they don't even test for it. Like it's such a critical thing, because I mean, if you have low testosterone, that is, I mean, the root cause of a lot of problems, right? Not just metabolic problems, but emotional problems too. I mean, you know, it can really make or break the way you feel about yourself. I mean, if you have low testosterone, that can make you feel depressed. I mean, it can lower your sex drive, your just drive for life in general. I mean, it's the root of so many things, yet doctors very often ignore it, unless you specifically ask them to check your testosterone. Well, thankfully, though, I mean, things are kind of changing now. We have like hormone replacement specialists, and, you know, testosterone replacement therapy is becoming more and more popular and all that. But for years, it was kind of like just something that people ignored, right? Like, I can remember even my father for years, like, going to the doctor, and they never even thought about checking his testosterone levels, right? I mean, I know it's crazy. But anyway, yeah, definitely go get it checked out and see where you are, because it's hard to make decisions on, you know, what to do unless you know exactly where you are. And if needed, you can look into speaking with a hormone replacement specialist. You know, some form of hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy. I mean, it's very common now, and it's very powerful. I mean, I know a lot of people personally who've used that. In your 30s is a bit young, but, you know, I know guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who are using it, and it's made a world of difference for them, right? It's like night and day difference in how they feel and how their body responds. I mean, it's if you're trying to function on low testosterone, and then all of a sudden you get to, you know, like a good, healthy, optimal testosterone level, again, it's a night and day difference. All right, let's move on. Ali is joining us. How do you progressive overload in 5x5? That I recommend, Ali, that you check out Bill Starr's 5x5 program. I actually have a version of this as one of our Workout of the Month programs on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle. So if you're a member of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle, you already have access to this. If you're not, you might want to go check out the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle. Just a second, I might even have it on the app. Just give me a second there, guys. I'm thinking I might. For those of you, I know a lot of you probably have downloaded the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app. And let me just see something. Yes, by golly, we do. Yep, Bill Starr's 5x5 workout is there in the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app. The thing I like about Bill Starr's program is it has the progression built in. It tells you exactly how to progress from week to week in the percentages and all that. So it's all outlined in his program. So you're wondering, like, how do you go about progressive overload? Well, Bill Starr, I mean, is a man who's ahead of his time when it comes to knowledge and the iron game and strength training. And in his 5x5 program, it goes into specific detail about how to go about the progressive overload. So if you're a member of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle, you can download that program. It's under the training section of the website. If you are not, and you're too cheap to sign up for a membership on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle, you can download the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app. And this is $2. I think it's $1.99. So not even $2. It's $1.99. And if you go to, here, I'll open it up. You go to workouts, scroll down to, I'm looking at this backwards. Where am I? I missed it. Shit, where'd that go? It was just there a second ago. 5x5 workout. There we go. Okay, 5x5 workout. Boom, it's in the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app. And there's Mr. Bill Starr himself back in the day. He was a very powerful individual. So boom, you can check that out. And the whole program training split with the progression and all that is outlined in the app itself. So go download that. Available for both Android as well as iPhone devices. This happens to be an Android, but it's the same app on both devices. And that would be a good 5x5 program that I would recommend that you check out. All right, let's see what else we have. Ben is there. Oh, shit, I lost my spot again. Ben saying thank you. You're very welcome. Have to work for the next 2 weeks. This is another question. Sorry, this is from UDU Seaful. I have to work for the next 2 weeks. I think once you said that up to 1 month, that one can just continue where one left off. What? I never missed more than one. Oh, okay, so you're going to miss working out for the next 2 weeks. If you had to take 2 weeks off, when you come back to the gym, it would be a smart idea to just, I mean, you can still pick up your old workout routine, but just train a little bit lighter. I mean, you will lose some conditioning and some strength in 2 weeks, right? You will, but it's not major. It's not like, 2 months or something like that. But you'll probably lose, you'll get out of the groove. You'll get a little tiny bit rusty, but you can still pick up where you left off, but maybe just scale back the weights a little bit. So instead of resuming at 100% of where you were, let's just knock the weights back a little bit, maybe like 75% for the first week, and then build it back up from there. So if you are going to have a little mini break, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, sometimes a mini break can do the body good. But when you do resume, just be a little tiny bit conservative when you come back, because if you try and jump in lifting the exact same weights with the same intensity, it's possible to do a little bit too much too soon and probably pull or strain something in the process, and that would just set you back even further. So you don't want to do that. Always play it safe and conservative. All right, VFit's joining us. What's up, y'all? Hope everyone's having a great day. Thank you much, and I'm having a great day. I'm assuming everybody else is too, but Patrick's joining us. He says, been smoking weed and drinking for a while. I used to be in good shape, and I want to get back into it. How do I start back and stay consistent? Well, maybe you could start by laying off the weed and the drinking just a tad, right? That's obviously not conducive to a health and fitness lifestyle. If you want a plan of attack, a basic get yourself back in shape type of plan of attack, again, I know I've been going back to this, but this blueprint, the Muscle After 40 blueprint, man, it starts you off from bare bones basic and progresses you all the way up to body part specialization and building up, strength and power. So if you want some help with this, shoot me an email, leeh@leehayward.com, and we'll have a chat, and we can lay out an action plan that's right for you. Gary Smallwood's joining us. He says, SARMs for older guys, meaning my older I don't know, pet rat monkey. I don't know. I think he's just being. I don't know if that's a question or what. He says SARMs for older guys, meaning my older pet rat monkey. Uh, I'm not an expert in SARMs. I mean, there's a lot of different SARMs out there, and supposedly the deal with SARMs, technically they're research. So I think that's where he's getting into his pet rat monkeys, because technically they're selling SARMs, but they're saying they're research chemicals. They're not fit for human consumption, but everybody's buying them for human consumption. Again, I'm not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but supposedly the idea is they are anabolic substances that are supposed to have fewer side effects than traditional performance enhancing drugs such as steroids. They're supposed to be more anabolic towards building muscle, less liver toxicity, less issues with organs and all this kind of stuff. You know, supposedly he's going to build the muscles, not necessarily build the internal organs, and of course not be as toxic to the body at the same time. Some say they're not going to shut down your natural testosterone production to the same degree, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I've never monitored this, and quite honestly, I don't have any experience with it. So it's still all this gray area. But in the meantime, it's not it's not legal, but it's not illegal, if you will. So I mean, you can pretty much order this for anywhere, and it's kind of like the wild, wild west, right? Because there's not a lot of regulation for it, because it's not even, they're selling it as research chemicals. So I mean, you really don't know what the heck you're getting into. If you are going to be looking into SARMs, now, I mean, I'm ideally, I would say, look, don't do it. Look for natural alternatives and basically try and maximize your results that way. But for those of you who are going to do it anyway, do your homework, right? Do your homework about this. Talk to some knowledgeable people. I mean, again, I'm not knowledgeable in this. This is outside my area of expertise. But find some people who have some experience, have some knowledge, and know about this stuff, and get some real world feedback about it, and do your homework, and don't take it lightly. Because I mean, when you're ordering stuff like this, I mean, you don't really know what you're getting. You don't know if who you're getting it from is legit or not, or if they're just putting, you know, crap in a capsule and trying to scam you out of your money. Because there's a lot of shady deals going on in the whole supplement industry, especially when you're getting into this kind of supplement industry where there's no regulation in this whatsoever. Because I mean, where they're classifying it as a research chemical, they don't even, like, it's literally the wild, wild west. You don't know what the heck you're getting. So be careful. That's all I'm going to say on that one. All right, John Y.E. is joining us. Hey, Lee, looking for a full body workout to change things from doing years of bro splits. Recommend specific program and or frequency. Yeah, I actually have an advanced full body program in my playlists. Go to my main YouTube channel, open up the playlists, and there is a total body workout. If I open up a new window now, I might screw up the live streaming video. So I can't remember the exact title, but there's an advanced full body workout or something along those lines. It's in there. It's an older playlist. I made this a few years ago. But it's a full body workout. And the way it's structured is each full body workout, we're doing different exercises. So you're getting a lot of training variety over the course of the week, even though it is a full body workout. And I think that would be a nice change of pace for you from doing the typical body part split, the aka bro split. So again, that would be one that I would check out, and I'm pretty sure I might even have it in the app. Let me just do a quick search again. I usually put a lot of my best programs in the app. No, I don't think I have that one in there. All right. Next update for the app, probably going to be a total body workout in there. There's a lot of good programs here, but I don't see that one in there. But it's on my YouTube channel if you want to go check it out. All right. Homeless Gavin is joining us. He says, Lee, my son is nearly 7 years old, plays football. He says, what is he old enough to use? I think he must have meant when is he old enough to use light weights? If so, what do you recommend to help him build up? Any tips would help. Uh, Quite honestly, what I would probably recommend at this stage is, I mean, he's playing football, so obviously they're probably going to do a lot of drills there. But even body weight exercises, you know, like your push-ups and your squats, some light exercises. I mean, you could even do that now. I mean, if my son is 2 years old and we have him going to gymnastics. Now, gymnastics for a 2-year-old is not like a structured program. It's basically just playing around on the mats and the trampolines and balance beams and all that. But it's teaching him to use his body and become more body aware. But you'll see, like, I've seen kids at the gymnastics club who are like 3 years old and they're swinging on the beams and using the rings and crazy stuff, you know. I mean, doing a lot of, you know, rolls and tumbles and basically a lot of very athletic exercises as young as 3 years old. The only thing you want to be careful of is a lot of heavy loading, right? I mean, you can work the muscles, right? You can do body weight exercises and you can even do some weight training exercises, but you don't want to do, like, you know, you're not going to have a 7-year-old get under a squat and do a 1-rep max, right? I mean, that's stupid. But you'd have them do lighter weights, higher repetitions, and actually build up their strength and conditioning through proper training. But you're not going to have them like max out in powerlifting. At least I wouldn't. I know I've seen videos where people are having their kids max out with 1-rep max lifts, you know, is really young. But personally, just be smart about it. Like, have them lift within their means and use weights that are allow for a minimum of 10 good repetitions per set, and just focus on the quality and the time under tension and build the strength and hypertrophy that way. But yeah, you can start them off training right now, but do so with him. I mean, supervise him, teach him the proper form, and keep it simple. Don't make it too crazy or complex. I mean, when I started screwing around with weights when I was that young, but I mean, I didn't have any structure to it. When I actually started a structured workout program was when I was 12. But before then, my dad had like the York barbell and dumbbell set down in the basement. And I mean, I can remember when I was like literally 7 and 8 years old, screwing around with that. Now, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but right, I grab a dumbbell with 2 hands. I was so small at the time, I could grab the dumbbell with 2 hands and do a dumbbell curl that way, and just messing around with it. But yeah, I mean, you can start off with a structured conditioning program, strength and conditioning program, even as young as he is now. No problem whatsoever. Let's see what else. Young Rolly, are Diet Cokes bad to drink? I covered this last week, actually. Instead of elaborating on this, I have a video. Just do a search for Lee Hayward diet soda on YouTube, and that video, that question's answered for you in that video. Not trying to be rude or brush you off or anything, but I'm just going to try and bang through as many as these, so rather than being redundant. I already had that one answered and posted. What's your opinion on taking a week off after extended amount of training? I'm wondering if it might help my enthusiasm and feeling tired lately. I would recommend doing a deload instead of just taking a week off. So with that being said, I mean, if you do take a few days off, there's no big deal. But instead of stopping training entirely, scale back to some less intense training. And for that matter, you could even just do some body weight workouts. You could probably do some cardio, just change it up, but do some low intensity, low demand exercise. So you're still keeping yourself active. You're still getting the metabolic benefits and the health benefits of regular exercise. But you're not placing stress and demands on your body. You're allowing your central nervous system to recover. I'm not a big fan of total inactivity. If anything, do a week of cardio, or just to get, you know, your heart pumping and blood flow circulating. I don't like doing nothing, because doing nothing actually doesn't speed up your recovery as much as light exercise, right? Nothing is not the fastest way to recover. The fastest way to recover is just to have that light, low-intensity activity. And that's why I like the whole yin and yang style of training, where you have the high-intensity workouts one day and the low-intensity workouts the next. It's a good complementary mix. Smoking Gun 111 saying, how often should someone adjust the deficit to avoid any potential plateaus? I only have 15 pounds to reach my goal. Can I eat the same amount of calories if they're low to begin with? All right. All right. There's different styles and different methods to go about adjusting your diets and calories and all that for fat loss. The simple answer is, I mean, I do things in phases, right? Again, going back to this blueprint, this is all outlined here. Phase one, you just focus on food quality and building the metabolism, right? Like, that's the simple phase. Once you've done that, you've improved food quality, so you cut out the crap you know you shouldn't be eating. You eat more of the stuff that you know you should be eating, and you focus on building the metabolism. Once you've got that phase done, then you can go into more optimizing the nutrition and adjusting the calories and macros based on how your body responds, right? Because everybody's a bit unique, and just because this diet works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. You really have to tweak it and adjust it for your individual body type. That would be phase two. Phase three would be getting into calorie cycling. So if someone is in tune with their body and they know how it works, we can get into more advanced calorie cycling. And this is where I think you would be in at this stage. If you've been strictly following a good solid fat loss program, you've been strictly doing your workouts, your cardio, and you've been doing everything right up until this point, and you're kind of at a plateau, then you can get into calorie cycling. And I say calorie cycling, but the biggest macronutrient that you're going to manipulate is your carbohydrate intake. Your protein should remain fairly constant. I mean, it may fluctuate a little bit because some of the high carb foods have small amounts of protein in there, but ultimately protein is going to stay constant. Fat should stay fairly constant as well, but the carbohydrates is kind of like the wild card that we can manipulate. So I very often help set people up on a diet plan where they'll go through phases of maybe high carb days, medium carb days, and then low carb days. And the idea behind this cycle is during those high carb days, you'll probably be in either calorie maintenance or sometimes even a slight caloric surplus. And this is to send the signal to your body that you're not starving. This is to refill your glycogen, to spike up your metabolism, to boost your thyroid, to boost your leptin levels. And basically, it triggers your body to think that, hey, we're not dieting, we're not starving. Let's keep the metabolism fast and running optimally, right? So that's what high carb, high calorie day does. When you switch to the medium calorie, medium carb day, this is a slight caloric deficit. And it's right after the high day, so your metabolism's still spiked and elevated, and you just drop the calories into a deficit so that you're going to actually start to tap into burning stored body fat for energy. Then after that, we're going to go into more of an aggressive calorie deficit where you cut back the carbohydrates even more and actually follow a low carb diet for a short period of time. This is where you're going to get into an aggressive fat loss phase. You will burn a lot of fat during this phase, but at the same time, you also risk slowing down your metabolic hormones. So you do that for a few days or so, and then we're going to restart the cycle again back to the high carb days. So what happens then is you get a nice little influx of carbohydrates, which are going to help to rebuild any muscle that you may have lost during those low calorie phases, help spike the metabolism again, elevate those metabolic hormones, your thyroid, your leptin, all that kind of stuff. And it's just a nice continuous cycle. So you go through a build and burn. Literally, within the phase of a week, you go through a build and burn phase. And this is an advanced strategy that I've used with a lot of my coaching students, and it works very well. I've used this myself when getting ready for competitions, and it's a very powerful system, this whole calorie carbohydrate cycle. So that's what I would recommend if you're in the phase now where you're starting to plateau. Now, if you want some help with this and structuring it out and how to outline the different days, the protein, the carbs, the fat, the calories for your body type, yeah, send me an email and we'll discuss it. So again, my email address is leeh@leehayward.com, and just send me an email and we can discuss a carb cycle strategy that will help you to lose those last 15 pounds without losing lean muscle in the process, because it is a build and burn style of training. You probably hear my son out there going nuts, so I'm probably going to get ready and clue up this video chat and He's running back and forth the hall there. I can hear him squealing his little lungs out. So he wants to have some fun. Yeah, you can probably hear him out there. All right, guys. I know we got several more questions coming through here. Actually, let's just see. There's 3 questions left. All right. We've got JKS, Probe, and Roy Patrick. I'm going to answer those last 3, and then we'll clue it up. Okay, JKS. A few thoughts on protein. Can of tuna along with breakfast, cup of black beans for a snack. Got me up to 125-pound dumbbell presses on chest day. Slight protein increase boosted my workouts. Okay, it's basically just sharing a tip. Yeah, protein intake is huge. So, I mean, like, when you can have adequate protein and space it out throughout the day, that's another key thing too. I find if you're trying to get big and pack on muscle, frequent feedings throughout the day can really help, and really focusing on good quality nutrition like that, it's huge. I mean, back when I started training, I focused primarily just on the workouts themselves, didn't have any clue about nutrition. And then when I started learning about nutrition, did it all wrong, because what I was following was low-fat bodybuilding diets that were published in the magazines back in the late 80s and early 90s. And that was, I'm not saying it was wrong, but it wasn't ideal for a young guy trying to build up, a teenager trying to pack on mass. I was eating like chicken breasts and broccoli and egg whites and oatmeal and just these very low fat, low calorie dense foods, trying to bulk up as a teenager with a racing fast metabolism. Didn't work. It was only until I started to actually focus on, more calories in general, that actually started to make gains. But yeah, your nutrition is huge, right? It can make or break your progress for sure. So again, thanks for sharing that. Next one. He said, Pro Bay says, I skipped your question about refeeds. Where was the question about refeeds? If I did skip it, let me just do a search. I just did a search for refeed, and there's no question there about refeed other than the one that you said that I skipped your question about refeed. If you're online right now, Mr. Pro Bay 415, type your question in and I'll answer it now. But I just did a search there. There's no question about refeed in this video chat. It's possible you probably posted it in the previous video chat that actually had to get closed out where we had the technical difficulties. If that's the case, I do apologize, but it's not posted under this one. Next, Roy Patrick saying, 18 years old, he's 52 kilograms, want to gain weight. Should he use mass protein? Tell you what I recommend you do. Supplements can help, but it's not going to make or break your program. What I recommend you do, if you want to focus on the nutrition, go to my website and download a copy of Bodybuilding Nutrition Made Simple. That's a complete diet plan that outlines the fundamentals, and it also covers a section there about protein as well. So I would recommend you check that out. All right, let's see if we got any others. Siddharth says, 20 years old, on gaining, should I do abs or not? And if so, how much? You should train your abs all the time, whether you're bulking or cutting, it doesn't matter. You need to train all your major muscle groups, including your abs. And that is just to build up your core stability and strength. I mean, if you have a strong core, that's going to make you stronger in all your other exercises. A lot of times, people, they think they can ignore their abs because they're bulking, but like doing crunches and leg raises and abdominal exercises, that's not what's going to give you. I'm going to have to clue this up soon, guys. He's going nuts up there. That's not what gives you the cut six-pack ab look. I mean, losing the body fat's what's going to give you the six-pack abs. But regardless if you're training for fat loss or not, you need. Oh, he's nuts. I know you can hear him out there. All right. You got to train your abs regardless if you're bulking or cutting. All right, guys. I got to clue this up here now because it's getting hectic out there. And I know my poor wife needs a hand to settle that little monster down. So I'm going to clue it up. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I do apologize for the hiccup that we had there with the whole video chat thing. I mean, yeah, I know we had everybody was tuned in. I even sent out an email and everything. I had people tuned in for the live video chat and boom, boom, boom. And then I had the computer glitch and I had to restart the whole thing. So I lost the previous stream and had to start a new one. So, but nonetheless, we had a good chat, and thanks for tuning in. And I'll do this again next week. Hopefully we won't have any glitches next week. We'll have a smooth run at it. And have yourself a great weekend. Have yourself a great Easter. And I'll talk to you later. Take care. Over and out.